I want to talk to you as like a former team president, though. There was I guess he's okay now, so we can kind of laugh at it, but Tracy Morgan vomited courtside at Madison Square Garden, which will probably be a meme forevermore, as well as his photo of him recuperating. But how, from a team ops perspective, Tracy Morgan throwing up courtside is probably treated differently than a regular Joe Schmo, such that they are sitting courtside, would be treated. How do you think those conversations go? How would they have gone if something similar were to happen in your line of work?
Oh, we actually rehearse that, Mike. We rehearse if something happens that interrupts the field of play. You rehearse it with your cleaning crew, with your security, what you would do if there has to be a stoppage, because normally it's going to be a spilling of beer or a throwing of popcorn or something that would get on the field. But of course, you plan for the occasional vomit. And the way you do it is you are sprung into action. You've got people who are assigned the mop, people who are assigned the pail. You've got people who are assigned the spray. You've got people who understand what to do about giving free stuff to the people next to where the vomit happened or where the spill happened in order to make sure that your customers are happy. So you go right to page 68 of the playbook, and that is what the Knicks did, and you keep on going. So it doesn't matter whether it's Tracy Morgan or a person to be named later or nameless later. They very well knew what to do. And it's gross, but it's the least gross thing. At the end of the games, I would get a report, and it wasn't labeled this, but I would label it like the top 10 grossest things from the game, like what happened in the bathroom at section 104. And you get a report of, hey, there was a stuffed toilet, or there was a spill, or there was people who were overserved, and vomiting barely makes your top 10.
Okay. I had a follow-up, and now I have like 10 more follow-ups. I guess I first want to start with, when you rehearsed it, did you have like an actor with fake vomit that would fake vomit everywhere, and then you do like a whole cleanup thing?
Yeah, but you don't do it with vomit. You do it with, you just spill stuff. You spill a liquid. We didn't put chunks in it. We didn't do anything like that to make it vomit. We would just do it with water. We wouldn't even do it with sticky stuff like beer, even though beer is the most common thing that's spilled in your ballpark is beer. But no, you don't practice with actual beer.
But then how is your staff ready if it doesn't smell bad or if it's not like a biohazard? I feel like you're going to take different steps there to clean it up than if you just have fake water. Like, I don't think you're doing your staff a service by having, just water.
Yeah, but I don't start a fire every time I do a fire drill.
Well, maybe if you did, you'd be better prepared for a fire.
Wow.
Okay. I don't even know how to respond to that. I do not believe that it is appropriate to start a fire in order to practice what to do. Active shooter drills we do all the time. We don't have an active shooter who is actually shooting at people, but we are prepared with what to do when that happens.
That was unnecessary. It's just unnecessary.
It actually seems pretty necessary given the times. But I'm wondering if you've ever had a similar situation with a VIP. Doesn't necessarily have to be, someone throwing up, but have you ever had an issue, health-related or some other type of issue around a VIP that was in one of your ballparks?
I don't recall anybody even being overserved. Obviously, we have a lot of celebrities who came to games over the years, and I don't recall ever having to kick anyone out or having a crossword with them. I certainly recall throwing people out. Every game, there's people who go to the medical center, and you get a full report of everybody who goes for liability purposes. Most of the time, they're overserved or they've been hit by a foul ball, and you got to keep track of that. But I was never told over 18 years that, hey, there's a celebrity here. And if they're going to be overserved, it would be in the suite where I was. And so we would be in control of that.
David, I have a specific question to ask you, but first I have to hark back to something you said and make a point of clarification. When you use the phrase bet your bippy, what is the etymology on that?
It is just me trying to appeal to you and the demographic that you bring when you're on the show. And I believe the expression is bet your sweet bippy.
Yes.
Because
you need to stop doing all of that.
Why did you say yes?
Yeah.
No, because he's right.
Yeah, but
Sweet bippy.
Okay, but
and it reminds me, it's from Laugh-In.
All right.
So, Greg,
all right, let's
Dan,
please,
just give me 10 seconds. Just pretend you're not there and that Greg is running the show. Greg, I have been saying bet your bippy on nothing personal. And I had someone reach out to me at davidsampsonpodcast.com who was in college who loved laughing and said, "You're doing it wrong. It's bet your sweet Bippy." And I've never said it incorrectly.
Laughing for the uninitiated is a 1960s comedy television show. Right. 1970s, maybe 1970s.
Groundbreaking.
1970s. Please stop doing that.
Rowan and Martin.
Do you ever talk about Seinfeld?
Please,
or Cheers,
Tony.
Those are just as old.
Okay, educate yourselves. No.
Yes.
No. Laughing is 20 years earlier than those. Laughing is like one of the original television comedies.
Yeah, Ruth Buzzy.
But as you get further away from when their start date was, you start to conflate it. And if I told you right now to guess what year the Civil War started, I would hope that you'd say, hey, sounds like 1865. But if you said 1845, I'd say, wrong, but close.
All right, it started in 1968. I'm asking you to eradicate it from your lexicon or update your lexicon. Let's do top 5, Chris Cody. Get the fanfare ready. Top 5 grossest things David Sampson has gotten in one of those end game reports. Number 5, David.
Number 5 is a adult who had an accident outside of the bathroom. It's a nightmare.
Number 4.
Number 4 is someone who thought it would be wise to take their beer cup and fill it with ice cream and then drop it on somebody in a fight.
A good move.
It's a terrible move. It's disgusting, and it caused us to actually have to no. Number 3, the number 3 grossest thing that ever came to my desk after a game was when the Bat Boys with an opposing team, and I don't want to make up the team because I can't remember, they had a tobacco combination that I hadn't seen before that they couldn't get off the dugout floor, and it caused extra time, which was extra money to get the dugout ready. If you've never seen a dugout after a game, you don't know what I'm talking about, but it is heinous.
It's sticky. It's sticky brown, disgusting.
Sticky, brown, and disgusting, which could describe my number 2. Number 2, and this is just me with children, I did not want to put any children's bathrooms or changing areas. And the second grossest thing, which to me is very patently offensive, is when somebody, and it's happened more than once, left dirty diapers not in a refuse place. They left it out in the open. That is unacceptable. Period.
All right. So sticky, brown. And when you said number 2 there, were you saying your number 2 or were you saying your number 2 in the rankings when you
That was my number 2 in the rankings.
Okay. Number 1.
The grossest thing that ever happened to me is when someone got hit with a foul ball and it opened a gash in their head. And it was their fault because they were on their phone. And it was a quick settlement. But when you go visit them and they're going into the ambulance, it is really gross because the head really does bleed tremendously. And a foul ball can really open up the noggin. And I found that to be gross. Even though I'm a fan of medical shows like Grey's Anatomy, that did not make me happy.
I feel like throw up's worse than a lot of the
barf
things
is worse
said.
than that. Yeah,
it was their fault was unnecessary there.
Foul ball
and a quick settlement. What, you just walk up and write a check for $4,000 and be like, sorry, and then that person left with blood all over the check?
It's funny. You don't start with $4,000. You start with a signed ball and a jersey, and you work your way up if you absolutely have to.
Well, what was the settlement? Please, I need to hear more. Like, why did you offer up it was their fault they were in the phone?
Oh, because that's the first thing we do. We go to the videotape and we see whether or not someone who gets hit in the noggin was on their phone. Because if not, then we settle for more. If they're on their phone, we settle for less. If we see that someone's paying attention to the game and they get hit in the head, we're going in, forget the ball. We're going to start with a meet and greet. We may even start with the first pitch.
Now, wait a minute. Isn't there a disclaimer on in fine print on the back of a ticket that says, if you get hit by a foul ball, it ain't our fault?
Yeah, and that is the truth. That's the legal truth.
Say it just like that.
But people file lawsuits because you get 1-800 lawyers who are willing to do it on commission, 33%, and so they will just waste our time and our money. So we call it a nuisance payment.
Okay, so you never contested one of that such claim.
We went pretty far with several of them because they were being so unreasonable. But we never actually went to trial. So every one of them ends up as a settlement, but it's just a matter of when you settle.
And what's a typical settlement? 5K? Less than that?
It depends. 5K is a good number. If you get yourself 5K from a little knock, we didn't really like paying people who said, oh, my back hurts, my shoulder hurts. I want to see blood for 5K. I want to see bruising. I want to see seams in your arm for 5K.
Yeah,
like, don't tell me you have a headache. I'm not interested in that.
But I'm just like, so like a screaming line drive foul ball. If you go back and look and they're on their phone, that like you're like, up, we're clear. Like that.
Well,
like some foul balls are like, I get you on like the lofty foul ball, but like a screamer down the baseline, you're like, up, they're on their phone, we're good.
That's a utility infielder signed jersey.
Okay, I want to play this game. Let's play this game. Come up. I want you guys to give me some scenarios here and then just have him say, here's a Mike Lowell bobblehead. That's what you get. I'm going to open the bidding because what's happening here is so wrong. Like he's saying somebody did something and made a negotiation point that was unreasonable. My thinking is that person is probably more reasonable than David getting there trying to immediately negotiate with a bobblehead while that person hemorrhages from the head hit with a screaming line drive and wasn't prepared for a negotiation that arrived with settlement and life.
Concussed too?
A person who is to be taken advantage of, bleeding from the face, and David's there with $5,000. What are you saying is unreasonable in that circumstance?
Listen, some people like a mezziga. I don't really understand your position here that you're saying that I'm being unreasonable. Some people are more than happy to take away signed items from a game.
What if before the Nets went up during your time at Pro Player, a bat went into the stands? Even if they're not on their phone, that's harder to get away from. How does that negotiation go down?
You get to keep it.
I love where your head is because bats are a different story than balls. And the way you work with bats is you don't get to keep the bat that hits you because often the player wants it back. So we promise the players that we will go for a trade. And that's a twofer. You get 2 unused actual bats for every gamer that hits you when you're in the stands. Wow. So that's the general rule. Now, if the bat splinters and it's wedged in your arm, then you keep the broken bat because the player doesn't want it. On top of that, you're invited back. And you may even get to meet the player depending on how wedged in the wood is.
That's
if the bat, I'm picturing the bat like through someone's arm.
That's a good deal for an impaling.
That's the rate of impalement.
I
true.
I can't help, but betray one of our colleagues here, and I regret that I'm doing this, but I can't unsee it right now because Tony's been shaking his head the entirety of this segment, like genuinely seemingly appalled at how clinically cutthroat you are about not being human. But I read his lips a second ago, and I don't know who he's talking to, but he said, I saw it, evil. The word evil, like who are you talking to back there, Tony? Because the entire time that would have been good on air, but I saw it off air.
It was said into my microphone to somebody who works in the back room, who's Lewis, and he was talking about how, wow, I can't believe it, all this time that we were going to these games high above the press box, David Sampson looking down at somebody getting hit in the face with the ball and being like,
I want you to imagine 9,000 fans are there and somebody comes out with a piece of bat in their arm, impaled, bleeding, scared.
We'll give you 2 other bats. How about that?
14-year-old kid, and he's like, hey, you want a Miguel Rojas ball, kid?
Yes, a John Birdie autograph.
David,
laugh as you want, but kids actually get premiums. that is where
he does have a heart, man.
Listen, I'm not heartless at all. If you're an impaled kid, that is worth more than an impaled adult.
David, what if my mom slips in the bathroom and really like hurts her back?
What kind of shoes is she wearing? Heels to a game?
Yeah, high heels.
Yeah,
no, just normal shoes. Normal shoes, sneakers.
Normal shoes is worth something. If you're wearing rubber sole shoes and you trip because we have a wet spot, so that's something the cleaning crew knows
with
during
no
the game.
sign, no sign up that says wet floor.
So we've got these yellow V-shaped things that you put in the bathroom when there's the wet spot, and that absolves you. That's how you get to the utility. If we don't get to, you could be looking at a lower ball for that. If you slip and fall in a wet bathroom or on a concourse where there's been something that's spilled, you're getting starting 9.
Wow. So if I slip and fall on a soiled diaper that hasn't been picked up, I get to bat fourth in the next game.
There we
or
go.
something like that.
It's about the worst case scenario for me as someone who would trip on that sort of item.
Yeah.
I never had that happen, so I never had to make that negotiation. So I don't know where it would end, but you would clearly have the upper hand were you to take advantage.
Hypothetical for you. There's a fight in the fish tank in the outfield at Pro Players Stadium. Your security is late to get there. There's pushing and shoving. One of the people involved in the fight gets shoved onto a patron that is sitting behind them, not involved at all in the fight. They get hurt in it. What is your liability there and ensuing settlement?
Well, you said Pro Player, so I'm in the clear because I'm a tenant at Pro Player. I didn't control the security at Pro Player, and so while it would make me angry that security would be late to a fight like that, that would be a Dolphins Wayne Huizinga / Stephen Ross issue.
Okay,
at Lone Depot.
Yeah,
if that would happen, we would have a problem because it is not the expectation that there would be a third party who would get hurt in a fight. So that person would have two causes of action, one against the people who were fighting. And the odds are, depending on where the seat location is, and I'm being general, but it generally works, is that you're not going to get much blood from a stone in that regard, which is how the team then ends up getting sued. We would then countersue the two people fighting, and we would figure out how to get the insurance companies to settle if that third party actually did get hurt.
So you think Bob Nutting is cheaper than this?
Wait, I'm sorry. You're calling me cheap because of payroll or because of how items are settled in a legal situation?
Just general unwillingness to give things away.
Oh, I think that the people who work for me and the fans in general would say that that is not my reputation at all, actually. My reputation is that when people are deserving, they get paid. And when people are deserving, they get items. When there is something that I made a mistake on or my staff did who reports to me, of course, I'm responsible for that. And I would never shy away from responsibilities. What I will not handle or stand or pay for is people trying to get one over on me, trying to get something for something they don't deserve.
Dave, what if I'm in the outfield? Home run's coming my way. I'm tracking it, right? I'm tracking in the bleachers. All of a sudden, I lean over the side, and then I fall and I tumble into like the Clevelander all of a sudden, right?
Or onto the field.
Or onto the field or something. I fall 10 feet, 20 feet. What happens?
Ejected. Immediate ejecting. If you're hurt, we'll take you to the ambulance, to the hospital. But if you in any way get onto the field of play, going for a foul ball or not, you are immediately ejected. There are signs up that is very clear on your ticket and signs in the ballpark that you may not interrupt or go onto the field of play.
What if I'm in the Clevelander? Like I fall in, but I fall into that little back area. Lucky me. Ooh.
I would say that anyone who by mistake gets into the Clevelander, architecturally, that is impossible. The only people who could get into the Clevelander would be your left fielder. In that manner, it would be very difficult the way the ballpark is built to fall into the Clevelander. I've never seen that, and I don't believe it's physically even possible.
You can prove how little Tony's been to that ballpark.
So
by
25K?
that scenario he painted.